Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. It's the podcast where we have digital discussions in the worlds of social media, pop culture, TV, film, sports, everything. We touch on everything on Popternative. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On Twitter, I go as PD Beats. My guest this evening, for me it's evening, it's afternoon for him, but he is an actor, a voice actor. He does the voice of Marco Diaz on Disney's Star versus the Forces of Evil. We are with Adam McArthur. Adam, welcome to Popternative.
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going well, man. We're finally doing this. I'm really excited about having you on the show. Icebreaker question. I mean, you know, voice actor, musician, director, writer, you're all storytellers. When did Adam McArthur decide that he wanted to be a storyteller?
Oh, man. Probably from straight out the womb. I always tell the story. My parents literally have said, there's two things you've always asked us for since you were a kid. Number one, to do kung fu. Mm-hmm. And number two, to get an agent. I don't know that I knew what that meant, when I was a kid, but I've always wanted to tell those, the family entertainment growing up. So it only made sense to move to Hollywood.
No, absolutely. And I mentioned, Marco Diaz, Star vs. Force of Evil. I mean, very successful show. I mean, you were talking about how season 4 is going to launch on Disney Channel, correct? Originally on Disney XD, but now going to Disney Channel.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Season 4 is actually going to be on channel, which is super cool. So 1, 2, and 3 originally aired on XD. Season 4 is moving over to channel, but they're going to do a whole series relaunch because so many more people have Disney Channel versus Disney XD. So it's going to be nice. We're going to get a lot of new eyes on the show, which I'm really excited about.
For people that don't know about the show, can you talk a little bit about the show and about your character?
Yeah, so Star versus the Forces of Evil is awesome. It's it follows Star Butterfly, who's a rebel princess from another dimension, who comes to Earth, sort of like a foreign exchange student, and befriends Marco Diaz, who I voice. She ends up living with the Diaz family and sort of roping him into all these adventures and travels through other dimensions and whatnot. And then, kind of spoilery, but not really since seasons 2 and 3 have already aired, but they eventually leave Earth. They go back to Muni, which is her homeland. And they go on an adventure there trying to restore the family name and, help Star realize her destiny, which is to become the Queen of Muni.
Oh, and a very popular show, and at a time now where a lot of people would say, at the golden age of television, and I've said it since day one, man, like, there's always going to be a market for cartoons, and I find, with the advent of digital media and, streaming and all the kind of the access to the cartoons is just getting bigger and better. Talk a little bit about the cartoon landscape from your perspective.
Yeah, it's cool. I would say, it's funny because, I grew up in the 80s, and everybody who grew up in the 80s thinks that the 80s were like the heyday of cartoons. But if you go back and watch those cartoons now, a lot of them are just awful. They're just bad. And I think it's the nostalgia we get attached to, But what's really cool about what's happening now is we're getting these we're in the binge culture, right? Everyone has Hulu or Netflix. Okay, hold on. I'm bringing a special guest real quick. Got my dog here.
Hey!
Here's Cooper, everybody. Hello.
Is that a Yorkie?
He's like a Yorkie mutt.
Awesome. I have a dog. I have a Morkie myself.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, this guy is he's now laying. He's falling asleep. Okay, that was instantaneously. He's like me. I can literally
special guest, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, the landscape of cartoons nowadays, we're in this binge culture where everyone can sit down and watch 13 episodes of something. So what it's allowing the creators and the writers of these shows to do is they don't have to just do one-off little episodes anymore. They can do through-line plots in animation, which has been not really something that's, been a thing ever. So we're in this cool time where people like me get to voice these characters who have just massive depth. And we get to learn a lot about the characters, and we get to see them put in a lot of uncomfortable places and positions so that they can, grow and all that stuff. So from an actor standpoint, it's a dream because, in season 3, I can't remember if it was season 2 or 3, but in season 3, I got to voice adult Marco. So Marco as like a 30-something-year-old man or as a 30-year-old man or something like that. But that if these were one-off episodes and you watch that, you'd be like, what in the world is happening? But because we have this through-line plot, we get to see some fun stuff like that.
No, absolutely. I'm actually excited because, whenever I have, voice actors or like authors on the show, I always ask this question because I find it very interesting, right? So authors and voice actors are in an interesting situation because, their name and their characters or what they write about are going to be known. But like, for example, people will know Star vs. Forces Evil. They're going to know Marco Diaz, right? But maybe they don't know what you look like.
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting. Same with authors. You might know the name of an author, but you might not be able to put a face to it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What do you kind of think about that? I find that interesting because you might not, Adam McArthur, might not get recognized as much walking down the street as opposed to a non-cartoon. You know what I mean? Have you ever thought about that?
Oh yeah, I think about it all the time, especially because, with social media and Instagram and whatnot, there is more of an element of people recognize, non-face actors than I think than there's ever been. But it's still not like you can walk down the street and everyone's like, oh, hey, there's Adam or anything like that. So my favorite part about that is using it to my advantage when I'm at like a convention or at, a star event and stuff. Like one of my favorite things to do is to go up to people in like Marco Diaz cosplay or like star cosplay at an event and be like, oh, hey, can I take a picture with you? You guys look awesome. And, the hardcore fans will know who I am. But, if it's a newer fan or someone who, isn't on social media or something like that, they might not know that it's me. So I like to get my picture first with them and then tell them after that, like, oh, by the way, I voiced Marco on the show, and watch their reaction and how their demeanor changes and all that stuff. It's a lot of fun. So I take advantage of people not knowing who the heck I am.
No, it's very interesting. And, you mentioned it a little bit, like the depth. I love when you said the depth of characters because I totally get where you're coming from with cartoons. And ensemble casts, Adam, are very big these type of days. All the shows on Netflix, that's really big. But I feel like the origins of that started with cartoons. I used to watch shows on Disney Channel and Cartoon Network all the time. And one of the things I liked about it is there was always so many different characters. So do you kind of think that people are kind of recognizing that cartoons started that a little bit as well?
I don't know. I think, I don't know. It's that's an interesting question. I haven't necessarily thought about that before, but I do think that what's happening with cartoons nowadays is we're seeing people who might not have been animation fans start watching cartoons. So, there's an element of that sort of crossover, which, then people could very well, make that connection and whatnot. But I do think that, the types of shows, the types of this guy, dude. The types of shows, the animated shows now are bringing in a larger audience. So, more eyes on it and stuff.
What were some of the goals when you found out that you were going to do the voice of Marco Diaz? What were some of the goals that you had, like, with that character? Like, what did you want to achieve?
That's a good question. I mean, animation is such a collaborative thing, and I think anytime I can make Darren, who's the creator, she's amazing, or like Dominic, who's one of the EPs, or Aaron, who's another EP, or any of the directors of individual episodes happy, that is sort of my goal as an actor, is to make sure that I'm working with them so that we can achieve their vision for the story, that I can bring what I bring to Margot to it. So maybe I can surprise them or add a little something that they might not have, expected to see.
So I just wanted, we're having a dog party now, Pop Alternative.
Party!
So this is little Leo the Morky, Adam.
Oh, hello, little Leo.
You
This
gonna
is
say
Cooper.
you gonna say hi to Cooper? You gonna say hi?
Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring like because we're having a dog party here, so I just
This
wanted
is
to
a
bring him
special
on.
moment. This is
Uh,
a special moment.
it is. This might be the still promo for the episode too. This is awesome. Yeah.
I love it.
I just wanted to big Instagram following for my dog actually. Over 160,000 followers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you hear that? You need an Instagram,
Yeah,
kid.
he's an Instagram, absolutely. Sorry, that's why I was kind of looking over there because Leo was
Yeah,
coming down to make an appearance.
I like it.
No, absolutely. You mentioned social media a little bit, and I want to know about you because I follow you on social media, and a lot of the fans follow you on social media, and you are very active, and you're promoting the show a lot, and I just wanted your kind of perspective of social media as a member of the Disney and Disney XD universe. What do you kind of think about social media in this day and age for like interacting with fans? Because I feel like we still don't understand it 100%. We're learning things every day about it.
Well, okay, so man, I could go on and on about social media. I have given so much thought to social media. I love it. But it's like anything. It's like a credit card, Like some people are really good with credit cards and they're not going to overspend and go into $700,000 worth of debt. And some people are going to take that credit card, they're going to be like, "Woohoo, free money," and they're going to go and they're going to buy up everything. Social media is very similar. Some people cannot, like, they just don't get that you are actually talking to people because they're in their room, they're alone, they're just typing something and they don't realize that someone could see it and how someone would interpret it and all this stuff. And ultimately, you can't really control how people would interpret it. So you just have to sort of, you know, not be too like controversial in a way,
Yep.
you know,
Neutral?
neutral, yeah, neutral, or just be very clear. And some people's brand is to be very controversial and to say crazy things and whatnot. The reason I like social media is because I get to interact with the fans. I don't feel like it's my platform to share my opinion, which no one really cares about. I mean, that's the other thing is I don't think people realize how little anyone else cares about what they think.
Mhm.
So I just, for me, it's more of like a fun thing. It would be, I try and make my social media what it would be like if you were here sitting next to me and I was like, "Hey man, like, let's, get a boba and hold our dogs." And
Yeah, absolutely.
that's it. Like, I would type that on Twitter right now.
No, for sure. And it's another thing I wanted to ask you too is, the convention sphere, I like to call it, like the Comic Cons and all that. I just find it never went away, but I feel like in the last like 5 years, there's just been a boom with the amount of conventions there are, and I just find like geek culture and nerd culture, it's bigger and better than it has been in like the last couple of years. Do you kind of agree and see what I'm talking about? Where like the last 5 years, there's been a big boom, and do you think
Yeah,
social media has to do with that a little bit? Like there's conventions everywhere.
right. No, I definitely think social media has played a part in that. I think I think like us nerds like to think like, oh, no one else can be into this stuff. No one likes anime or whatever. And then you go on social media and you're like, wait, you like My Hero Academia? Wait, you're into Star versus the Forces of Evil and you're not 11, and then you realize that you have there's a community. And so, essentially that's what the conventions are. And those were like the one time a year before, they were the one time a year when everyone could get together, but now you can stick together through social media. And I think social media has definitely played a part in people realizing how big the fandoms are for this kind of stuff. And then of course with that comes people who want to make a little money off of it and start a convention and have people come and put them all together. So
Absolutely. No,
yeah.
like it's amazing. Well, a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. I really, really appreciate
Cool.
you coming on the show, man.
Yeah,
This
no
has
problem.
been this has been a blast. I mean, I really love the show and I love how it looks. And you kind of mentioned, the creator and how amazing everything kind of comes together. But I mean, for people that have not watched the show, why should they watch the show?
Well, if you love amazing voice acting. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Well,
just kidding.
no, you can sell some people on that. Voice
Um,
acting is the coolest industry. It's the most people don't even talk about that industry as much anymore. I find it so cool, man. You look at some of these people and you look at their, we had Peter Kalamis on the show last year. It was one of the
yeah.
best episodes. He did the voice of Goku. And he did in Dragon Ball Z. He did the voice of Ed and Ed, Rolf and Ed and Eddie. Like so many things. You look at their resumes. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, I always tell people I'm getting paid to do what I used to get sent to the principal's office for in junior high school. So
that might be one of the best lines.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so good. But yeah, so why should people watch Stars versus Force of Evil?
It's a lot of fun. You're going to see some amazing characters. You get to see some cool dimensions that you will have never see anywhere else. You get to see two best friends go through lots of like adventures together, and the animation is amazing.
It really is.
The one of the studios that animates it is called Rough Draft, and they're in Korea, and they do everything hand drawn. Like if you go visit them, you'll find just sheets of paper everywhere on the floor because they're hand drawing, and and that's incredibly rare for a show. So yeah, if you want to see a kick butt rebel princess and her best friend fighting monsters and dimension hopping, then it's the show for you.
Amazing, man. Well, Adam, thank you so much. Where can people follow you on social media?
You can find me over on Instagram at NinjaMac, NinjaMac. You can find me on Twitter at _Adam M.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and hopefully we can have you back on and chat again some other time, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Well, this has been Popturnative, youtube.com/Popturnative for the video versions of the podcast. And if you're just in the mood to listen and you don't want to see us, that's fine, because you could just download the episodes on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's where we are. And until next time, this is Adam McArthur, PD Beats, Cooper, and Leo, who's upstairs, signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popturnative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popturnative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popturnative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.